So I don't know about you, but when I look at the news, when I click on my little button on my phone to look at the news, there's a little bit of anxiety that comes up for me. I think, what's it going to be today? Oh no. What has exploded? Who has said something stupid? Like the whole thing. And no, we shouldn't use the word stupid, I'm sorry. We're working on words here. But you kind of expect something bad, You don't even need to read the articles themselves anymore. You can just look at the titles of the articles and you know exactly what happened. You see images of politicians smirking or shouting or kind of like dabbing their forehead with sweat. You see that subs are lost and ships full of immigrants sank, uprisings in Russia, poverty all over the world. These are the things that we read about in the news. It's depressing stuff. And we rightly wonder, how long can things go on like this? What will our future hold? And when we look online for predictions about what the future would be, they're mostly pretty bleak. We humans are a rather pessimistic bunch. And it's really easy to predict a future when things fall apart, when things look right now like they're falling apart. And so it's really surprising when we come to the prophet Jeremiah, where he says, yeah, prophets prophesy war and famine and destruction, but you know what? When you hear a prophet saying that you've got some good years of peace coming for you, and that prophecy comes true, then that's a prophet. That's a real prophet. I actually had to read that line 8 times while I was reading the sermon. I got through like half of the sermon. I was like, oh no, what if I read that wrong? Because that couldn't be what Jeremiah says. Jeremiah says, woe to thee. You have to be careful because all these horrible things are going to happen. I'm like, oh no, what if I'm writing this whole sermon on the wrong verse? So I checked and I'm like, no, he really said that. In our modern times, we rarely call people prophets. The prophets that we know are those guys on the street corners with kind of the boards that say, be prepared, the end of the world is nigh. In seminary, I remember a professor asked us who a modern day prophet was. And we came up with all sorts of names. And then the professor asked, why are they a prophet? Good question. And our answer was, because they open our eyes to the great evils of the world, the sins we're committing, and what will happen if we don't change our ways. For us, and I think for most people, prophets are people who warn that bad stuff is coming, not that good stuff is coming. And in the end, do we really believe in prophecies anyway? We don't believe that anyone can see the future. It's not written yet. The best thing we can do is guess at what the world will look like in a year or 5 years or 10 years. And whenever people do guess, again, they're usually pretty grim guesses. What will the environment look like if we keep on using fossil fuels? What will our churches look like if we don't start filling those pews? What will our country look like if the president is part of that party? Most of these answers that we give are deeply apocalyptic. And in the end, sure, what is the good of a prophecy that predicts something good? If something good is coming our way, great, let it come. We don't have to do anything. But if something bad's going to happen, then we got to know so we can get prepared. We got to make our tinfoil hats, right? Who cares if it's going to be sunny tomorrow with a high in the 70s and a low in the 60s, beautiful weather, no smoke in the sky? We want to know if it's going to be 100 degrees or if it's going to dip down to 30 at night so we know to bring either our suntan lotion or to get the comforter out. We'll know that we have to prepare. What good is a prediction if it's about something good? If voting for so-and-so will lead to higher taxes, oppressive laws, further anger and division, then goodness gracious, we know that we got to go out and vote against that person. But if it doesn't matter who we vote for, if the Democrat and the Republican and the Independent are all great, wonderful people who are just really full of love, then, maybe I won't even vote. I'll just kind of stay home that day. What good is a prediction if it's about something good? We don't need to prepare for good things. We only need to prepare for bad things, right? We only care if prophecies and prophets prophesy war and famine. Prophecies are useless otherwise. Wrong, says the prophet Jeremiah. Ha, 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 got you there. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The word of the Lord came to the prophet Jeremiah, and God said, hey, anyone can prophesy war. Anyone can look at the world and say, man, all of this is going nowhere fast. And it's important information, whether Babylon is going to attack or if there's not going to be rain for months on end or whatever. But you know what? When you prophesy peace and that peace comes about, then you know that that's the word of the Lord speaking. That's when you should pay attention to the perfect person. That's a real prophet. Not everyone can prophesy peace and be right about it. But when they do, you know it's a gift from God. We Christians have a great gift. We call it the gospel, which means the good news. And this gift, it's not like normal gifts that you get on your birthday, that you unwrap for yourself, and then you take home and you hide in your room so your sister doesn't find them. Do you hide your presents from your sisters? I know you do. The gift that we have been given, the good news of the gospel, it's not just for us, it's for everyone. And our job as Christians is to go out into the streets and into people's lives and proclaim, make straight the way of the Lord. Prepare for the advent of Jesus Christ, God on earth, because let me tell you, there's going to be some great things happening in the world. And we have some good times coming. So get ready for the best day, week, month, year, lifetime, because God is here. Huzzah! Naive, innocent, ignorant. That's what many people say when we proclaim the good news. And that's what people said to Jesus in his own day. When they heard him proclaiming the good news of salvation, that God is in love with us and wants to be with us and wants to rescue us, people laughed and said, sure. Have you looked at the news lately, Jesus? Jesus was run out of his own hometown. Others said, man, this is a tough lesson. I don't know about this one. And they walked away. Other guys said, this person's clearly a lunatic. They laughed at him. They challenged him. They tried to trick him and run him off a cliff. But he kept on preaching the good news, that God is in love with the human race and creation itself. And he preached this good news even on the cross while he had nails in his body, nailed to wood. And we're called to do the same thing. What in the world is the good of a prophecy if it's only about something good? What do we expect people to do with the promise of good times? How do we want people to react when we tell them fire and brimstone are not the future, but healing and reconciliation? How do you prepare for something good? Think about it in this way. There is one place in the world, and I'm sure there's more, because as soon as you say there's one place in the world, someone thinks of another example. But there's definitely at least one place in the world where a prophecy of good news is welcome, and that's in the hospital room. When we are told that the cancer has gone into remission, that they got the tumor, that the infection is cleared up, that we can go home happy and healthy, we welcome that kind of good news. Our future is suddenly bright again. We breathe a fresh air, a newness of hope. Life is not dwindled and confined to darkness and despair, but exploded out with sunlight and so much joy that our hearts feel like they're going to burst. We have been given a great gift, but it is not just a gift, but a call. to tell others, to tell the whole world that no matter what happens, everything will be all right in the end. This prophecy comes from God. It's about peace, wholeness, joy, and reconciliation beyond hope, which means that if you can't muscle up the hope, that's okay. God is the one who we put our trust in, not our own hope. And that hope is that the world will not fade away into darkness. It won't puff out like some dud firecracker. That the world and you and me and those we love more than anything will not pass away into nothingness, but will be and are eternal. Tell people that. Live that for people. What's the good of a good prophecy? How do you prepare for good things? Relief. Simple, all-encompassing relief. Have you ever seen that when someone is suddenly relieved, truly relieved? When their heart suddenly unclenches and their shoulders fall, and all the weight they carried is suddenly disappeared. The knots in our muscles are untangled. Grief and anxiety, which feels like our chest is crumpled up like a ball of paper. It all goes away, and we find peace. Relief that the dark night will soon be over, that the war and the strife will cease, that good will win in the end, that evil will be banished and be no more, and we will see only blessed peace for the rest of eternity and beyond. Now, there's still war. I'm still going to feel anxious when I open up that app on my phone. But bad news kills. It kills the spirit, it kills the heart, it kills the mind, and through all those things, it kills the body. Our world is suffering, and we are suffering at that suffering. Anxiety is a horrible thing to keep in our hearts, and giving people relief is one of our calls. But we have been given the good news, the best news, straight from the mouth of God. So preach it, prophesy, tell the world that the God of love and reconciliation is with us. Sing it from the housetops. Live it with every waking breath, and be that breath in action or in stillness. Who cares what people say? People have been thinking that Christians are weird and strange and batty for the past 2,000 years. They're not going to stop. We believe that the person who, created us came down and was a human, and we killed him and he got back up again. People are going to think we're weird forever. Who cares? The message of peace and love is more important than worrying about being a little weird every now and again. So preach it, and watch people as they suddenly realize that all of that stress can be faced. All of that fear can be lived through and lived above. And then you'll see that spark of a spirit in people's eyes, and you know that you have brought God to someone. Thanks be to God for all that you do, and keep on living hope.